As each day starts in rural Nebraska, Lindsay Nielsen makes breakfast, gets her kids out the door,
Love you, sweetie. Bye.
and drives her youngest to school. And that's where, these days, the normal routine ends, thanks to an email she read to us.
Your ability, knowledge, and skills do not fit the agency's current needs, and your performance has not been adequate.
Lindsay was fired from her job at the FDA, then temporarily reinstated by a court order. She's now on administrative leave.
What's it feel like even reading that now?
It's still very, very hurtful. It's a lie, completely.
Her performance reviews portray a top employee in a microbiology job affecting millions, approving tests for COVID, the flu, and other fast-moving and changing diseases. Like nearly 60% of Nebraska, she voted for Trump and initially was glad he won.
What happened afterwards, though, is not something I expected. I did not expect there to be such a massive, quick, rash cut to the federal government. I really expected it to be logical.
She and her husband are veterans and serve in the Army Reserves. They're also both federal employees, accepting multiple moves and lower pay as the price of public service.
What would it mean if both of you all are riffed or terminated?
It means that we both will find new jobs. I think we'll bounce back. I can't say that about some other people I know. Like, we go to church with some other people that work for the USDA, and they're very worried.
They're not alone. Nebraska is home to more than 17,000 federal employees. Per capita, that's a bit below the national average. But the U.S. Postal Service and military are two of the state's biggest employers. At the same time, it is a conservative state.
I'd say it's a state that wants a smaller federal government.
Eric Thompson is an economist with the University of Nebraska-Lincoln.
It's a college town to some extent.
He says Trump's actions aren't felt widely here yet, that some things like cuts to taxes and government spending could help Nebraska's economy.
I think the problematic policies are the tariff regime and also the limits on legal immigration. Legal immigration is really important for our economy, certainly in this state.
Last year, 37% of Nebraska's state budget came from the federal government. That includes Medicaid, research grants, roads, and bridges. But one of the biggest areas watching Trump's policies is the ag economy.
When you're looking at your margins and your rate of return, I mean, you're squeezing pennies.
Outside Nebraska's other big city, Omaha, Scott Thompson's farm roots stretch back over 3 generations. He says farm families like his are used to a bumpy financial ride.
Was there a point you thought about getting out?
Oh, yeah. Usually 5 days in the summer and 5 days in the winter.
The tech has evolved, but not the seasons. Every spring, he fertilizes his fields that will grow corn and soy. That produce and the cattle he raises put the family farm and much of the state at the center of the president's trade war.
I'm going to be much more lenient with regard to the tariffs that you'll see on April 2nd. I'm going to be much more lenient than they were with us.
Trump has already sparked a tariff battle with China, possibly hurting farmers' demand, and he's threatened Mexico and Canada, which could further spike key supply prices, like for fertilizer. But Scott hasn't seen that yet.
So far, as bad as it's made to be sound, it really hasn't been a sledgehammer, because he's backed off our Mexico-Canada trade tariffs 2 times now.
This year, he's locked in a strong crop insurance rate, allowing him to bank on income from his fields even if the market turns. He likes what Trump and Elon Musk are doing to cut government and shift the trade balance. He also knows there's a risk to farmers.
But you're hopeful.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Why is that?
We've already been through this once. So we went through it in 2020, and it was a hand grenade that went off that time, and the prices fell out of bed. Made it through. We were subsidized by the government, basically the loss of what they thought the tariffs impacted the price, and it ended up being a really profitable year for farmers.
Back in Lincoln, freshman college student Ezra Alami faces a major loss.
Hello. Hey, how are you?
The teaching student and native Nebraskans scholarship has been frozen and may be canceled. She describes herself as apolitical, didn't vote last year, and never expected Washington politicians would get involved in her education.
They just feel so far from us, you know, like the government isn't something that I feel like
a lot of people say, oh, it's not going to affect my day-to-day life, like it's not going to affect me and stuff.
It feels far away.
Yeah, it just feels like something that's like so unreal, you know? And for me, it's like, now it just feels so real.
Ezra, who helps at an after-school program for teens, is part of the Raices Scholars Program, a federally funded program in Nebraska that aims to fill the state's teaching shortages by training local students for the job. But the Trump administration recently pulled its share of the program's funds.
Okay, are we ready? Let's go.
Because the school's grant application referenced diversity.
You had to be from Nebraska. It was literally just that you just had to want to be a passionate teacher and teach in your communities.
Ezra does not know, no one does, if the scholarship will be reinstated for next year. But she does know she can't afford to take on student loans on a teacher's salary.
If we don't have those programs and support, like how do we go about this? You know, we're just going to lose so much people. We're going to stay in this teacher shortage. It's just going to get worse and worse.
Nebraska's political landscape is a patchwork of rural red dotted by a couple of big blue cities. It's all 1,000 miles from Washington. But like the first signs of spring, the first signs of Trump's actions are here. And families, farmers, and others are closely watching for what's next. For the PBS NewsHour in eastern Nebraska, I'm Lisa Desjardins.